Descending thoracic aorta. The descending thoracic aorta is the longest part of the thoracic aorta. It is about 8 inches, which equal 20 centimeters long. Where it begins? Sure, descending thoracic aorta begins at the end of the arch of the aorta. And we take before that the arch of the aorta ends on the left side of the disc between T4 and T5 vertebra. The arch of the aorta ends on the left side of the disc between T4 and T5 vertebra and continue as descending thoracic aorta. The descending thoracic aorta descend obliquely. Descend obliquely to the right side. This is the left side, the beginning, and descend obliquely downward and slightly to the right. At first, it descends on the left side of 3 thoracic vertebrae, T5, 6, and 7. First, it descends on the left side of T5, 6, 7 thoracic vertebrae. Then it descends in front. It descends in front of the lower 5 thoracic vertebrae. Lower 5 thoracic vertebrae from T8 to T12 vertebrae. The thoracic aorta ends by passing through the aortic opening in the diaphragm at the level of T12 vertebra, bypassing to the abdomen to continue as abdominal aorta. What are the relations of this part of the thoracic aorta? First of all, anteriorly. This a very beautiful picture, which is a posterior view to the descending thoracic aorta, showing the structures in the posterior mediastinum. The main structures in the posterior mediastinum are descending thoracic aorta and what is this? The esophagus. In this picture, from above downward, what passes in front of the descending aorta? First of all, this bronchus. This bronchus here on the left side or right side? Sure, this is the left principal bronchus, passing to the left side in front of the aorta to enter the hilum of the left lung. Then below the left main bronchus, this, what is this? This is the fibrous pericardium, separating the descending thoracic aorta and esophagus from what? Here the fibrous pericardium separating the structures in the posterior mediastinum, which are descending aorta and esophagus, from the oblique sinus of the serous pericardium. And the oblique sinus of serous pericardium separating the two tubes, these two tubes, from the base of the heart, which is mainly left atrium. At the level of T7, vertebra, the esophagus, which lies on the right side of the descending aorta, At the level of T7, the esophagus cross in front of the aorta to become at the end of the aorta on the left side of the aorta. Therefore, in front of the aorta, there is esophagus. The last part of the aorta, or terminal part of the aorta, anteriorly there is the diaphragm. Therefore, there are 4 structures anterior to the descending aorta: left main bronchus, pericardium, fibrous pericardium, and oblique sinus of the serous pericardium, separating the aorta from the left atrium. Then esophagus, then diaphragm. These are the structures related anteriorly to the aorta from above downward. Posteriorly, this picture is very good, summarizes the relation anteriorly and posteriorly to the descending aorta. Anterior to the descending aorta is left principal bronchus, fibrous pericardium, sinus of serous pericardium, and left atrium. Then, after crossing of the esophagus in front of the diaphragm, there is part of the esophagus. Finally, the esophagus here cross the aorta, pass in front of the aorta to reach its opening in the diaphragm, which is the esophageal opening in the diaphragm, and the terminal part of the descending aorta related to the diaphragm. Posteriorly, the aorta is related to lower 5 thoracic vertebrae from T8 to T12, and these 2 veins cross from left to right. These 2 veins are superior and inferior hemiazygous. The hemiazygous veins lies on the left side, and the terminal part of superior and inferior hemiazygous cross from right to left behind the aorta at the level of T8 and T9 vertebrae respectively. The superior hemiazygous cross at the level of T8 and the inferior hemiazygous cross at the level of T9 vertebrae. What are the right relation? This picture is very good for the anterior relation. Left main bronchus. Then here, the pericardium and the heart are removed. The terminal part of descending aorta related to esophagus cross at the level of T7 in front, and finally the diaphragm, and here the aortic opening in the diaphragm. On the right side, what are the structures present on the right side from above downward? Mainly on the right side of the aorta is the esophagus before crossing. Then it crosses at the level of T7 and become anterior. After the aorta leaves the right side, or after the esophagus leaves the right side of the aorta, what are the structures related? The structure lies behind the esophagus. What are the structures lies behind the esophagus? This is the esophagus on the right side of the aorta. This is the main structure. After crossing of the esophagus in front of the aorta, these two structures are present. What is this? A zygous vein. Here the esophagus is cut and removed to show the structures behind the esophagus, which is a zygous vein separated from the descending aorta by thoracic duct. Therefore, on the right side, mainly esophagus. After the esophagus cross in front of the aorta, the lower part of the aorta comes in relation on the right side to the azygous vein and separated from the azygous vein by thoracic duct. On the left side, from above down. Also, this picture is very good for the right structures. Structures related on the right side of the descending aorta, esophagus mainly. After crossing in front, thoracic duct and azygous vein. On the left side, here the descending aorta is cut to show the structures on the right side, which is mainly esophagus. And what's the structure present here on the left side? Mainly, all this area is related to left lung and left pleura. And remember the mediastinal surface of the left pleura. There is a longitudinal groove behind the hilum of the left lung for the descending aorta. But at the lower end of this groove related to the left lung, it is replaced by this groove, which is the terminal part of the esophagus. Therefore, on the left side, there is left lung and left pleura. At the lower end of the aorta, it becomes related to the esophagus. Therefore, you should notice that the esophagus has triple relation to the descending aorta. First, it lies on the right side. At the level of T7, it crosses in front of the descending aorta. And finally, the esophagus becomes on the left side of the descending aorta. What are the branches of descending aorta? This picture is very beautiful for all branches of the aorta, ascending, arch, and descending. What are the branches of the ascending aorta? First of all, there are paired branches. Paired branches for 9 pairs of posterior intercostal. Right and left posterior intercostal. From posterior intercostal number 3 to number 11. 9 posterior intercostal from 3 to 11. And it gives the last intercostal which lies below the last rib. Because it lies below the last rib and here there is no intercostal space, this artery is called subcostal artery because it lies below the rib. Therefore, it gives 9 posterior intercostal arteries, all these pairs of arteries, right and left posterior intercostal, from posterior intercostal number 3 to 11, and finally gives subcostal, which can be considered as intercostal number 12. It also gives here, passing in front of the descending aorta, is the left main bronchus. it gives the descending aorta gives to this left main bronchus two bronchial arteries. Then the aorta is closely related to the esophagus. It gives the 5 esophageal branches. And the descending aorta is related to the pericardium, mediastinum, and diaphragm. Therefore, along its course, it gives esophageal branches, pericardial branches, diaphragmatic branches, and mediastinal branches. You should remember the relations of the aorta to remember the branches of the aorta. First of all, it lies on the posterior thoracic wall, related to the posterior part of the intercostal spaces. Therefore, it gives 9 pairs of posterior intercostal arteries. Then, it gives the last intercostal subcostal arteries. Then it is related anteriorly to the left main bronchus, gives the 2 left bronchial arteries, and it is closely related to the esophagus, gives the 5 esophageal branches. In front of the esophagus here is the pericardium. Therefore, it gives pericardial branches. In front of the terminal part of the aorta, there is the diaphragm, gives diaphragmatic or phrenic branches. Sure, the aorta lies in the posterior mediastinum and sure gives mediastinal branches. Therefore, you can remember branches of descending aorta from the relations. Related to the posterior part of intercostal spaces gives the posterior intercostal. And the last one is subcostal. Gives 2 bronchial, 5 esophageal, and pericardial, mediastinal, diaphragmatic branches. Thank you for good listening and good luck.